is way more than greens. It's a nutritional powerhouse packed with vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, a phytonutrient blend, and way more. Basically, your whole supplement and vitamin cabinet in one scoop, all working together to support everything from energy, gut health, immune health, focus, and even healthy aging.
Shout out to AG1. We need it. We've gotten so used to it as our daily habit in the Rosenthal house that we went to Massachusetts with about 20 travel packs. AG1 is the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health. I drink it literally every day.
I also just really like the routine of taking it first thing when I wake up every morning, starting my day out right. It's just one scoop of powder mixed with water, and every scoop is packed with 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food source ingredients, and it tastes kind of tropical, like pineapple. I remember the first thing I noticed when I started taking AG1 years ago was that it very quickly improved my digestion and would give me an energy boost throughout the day.
Last piece of new news. The big game might be over, but Quip knows that the Kelsey competition never ends.
Never.
So in the spirit of this competition, our friends at Quip wanted to find out who the New Heights podcast MVP is. Me or Travis?
Well, now I'm interested. So here's how it's going to work. You got to go to getquip.com/MVP to place your vote by using one of these promo codes. That's JKelsey to vote for Jason or TKelsey to vote for me. You guys know which one to choose. Either code will automatically get you 20% off any Quip water flosser, Quip toothbrush, or Quip gum starter kit. I got the toothbrush right here, and I'll tell you what, I'm ready to take this thing out the box and brush some teeth.
Got the water flosser right here.
Pick a color, any color.
Yeah, I've never used a water flosser, so I'm excited to try this. All right, last piece of new news. The other week, our friends at Quip asked the 92%ers to vote on the New Heights podcast MVP. Whichever brother received the most votes from the promo code JKelsey or TKelsey would be crowned the podcast MVP, the New Heights MVP. Quip would be donating $10 for each qualifying purchase to the winner's charity of choice.
And the votes are in. Your 2023 New Heights podcast MVP is Jason. Jason won. He's the best at everything. Again, Jason, our friends at Quip were so kind and got you this official pod MVP trophy.
I got a trophy.
Yep, you did. How do you do this?
Oh my God. Okay.
Once it's on, it's on. Huh?
We're good.
Sorry.
We're even.
Is that the sweetest sound on the internet or what? That's the sound of another sale, another dollar, another customer on your Shopify e-commerce store. For years, that sound has told me that I'm being boss, no matter where I am or what I'm doing, as a longtime user of Shopify, the commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide.
I don't know if you guys know this, but we sell merch. And we have used Shopify since we started. It's an incredible online service, dude. It gives you all the reports and the charts and keeps the balance statement balanced. It's incredible, dude. If we didn't have this, we'd bomb.
Did you hear that? You know what that means, right? That's the best kind of notification. That's the sound of another sale on Shopify. And the moment another business dream becomes a reality. We've been using Shopify for over 10 years now. Literally, we sold E's first book, The Secret to Success, using Shopify. Starting out is usually pretty challenging, but not this time.
All right, there we go, guys. I wanted to give you an example of some of these Friends awesome ads. Come on down, give them a hand, of course. Those are great. So come on down, guys. Let's do this. Let's have a fun conversation. If we're not having fun, what's the point, right? That's right. So everybody take a seat. And then what I'd like you to do as a way of introduction, since we're in the audio space, is please introduce yourself. And then you can whistle, you can hum, or you can sing your favorite audio jingle of all time. All right? So go for it.
Awesome. Thanks, Stu.
You're
nice
welcome.
to see everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Jess Jacobs. I work at Shopify. I live in Boston. I have a cat and a husband and a son. So that's a little bit about me. And I'm going to say purely for loyalty's sake, my favorite jingle, I'm not going to give it away, we'll see if you can guess it, is Should I hum it or whistle it? What do you think?
Whatever feels right to you.
Corey Yang, I'm looking at you. I know you know what that jingle is. Yeah.
What is it, Corey?
Wayfair.
Wayfair, all
you
right.
got just what I need. That's my
Okay,
favorite.
fantastic. Let's give her a hand. That's some brave whistling on a stage in front of a bunch of professionals. Serious professionals. Okay, Shane, how about you?
Thanks, Stu. I'm Shane Pittson. I lead growth at Quip. As you saw, water flossers that are recommended to spray in your mouth, not at the person on screen, but we like that. That was fun. I'm coming in from Brooklyn, and my favorite jingle, I'll just sing it for you, Stu, you know?
Please.
Frosted Flakes are more, and join in, than good. They're great. Thank you.
Excellent. Very good. Margaux.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I am Margaux Natiello. I lead audio partnerships at AG1. I'm from New York, so happy to be here and on this great panel with all of you. My favorite audio jingle, I'll sing it. Ba 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 ba.
I'm loving it.
Let's do it again. Come on, we can do better than that, everybody. One more time.
Take two. Ba 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 ba.
I'm loving it.
Okay, we'll take it. It's okay. You knew it. You all know it. Okay, and I'm Stew Redwine, VP Creative Services at Oxford Road. Mine's got to be the best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. Yeah, commit. So we want to talk. About audio creative, and obviously from the reel that we showed you guys, we want to talk about the authenticity of host endorsements. But there's a whole lot more to audio, and in fact, we're celebrating on August 28th next month. It's going to be the 101st birthday of the first radio commercial. It was for Hawthorne Court Apartments. In Jackson Heights, New York, on WEAF. It ran at 5 p.m., from 5 p.m. to 5:10 p.m. They paid a whopping $50 for those 10 minutes. It was read by one of the company's spokespeople. Now, the original ad does not exist. We don't have it, but they did do a recreation of it 30 years later. So just in honor to the history of audio and that people have been working on this problem for a century. Now, over a century, I want to play just a little sample of that. So if you guys can hit that for me, thanks.
Friends, you owe it to yourself and your family to leave the congested city and enjoy what nature intended you to enjoy. Visit our new apartment homes in Hawthorne Court, Jackson Heights, where you may enjoy community life in a friendly environment.
So there you have it, the first audio ad. I mean, the best recreation we have of it. 10 minutes long. $50. And when we think about audio, as this medium that we've been talking about already and hearing about how, the authenticity and the intimacy, ultimately we are communicating words, and what those words are matter, what order they're in matters. So a lot of what we're about to talk about is style and how it's stylized, and what the hosts do to bring their personality to communicate to their audience in a way that only they can do. But the words that we equip them with are really, really important. We want to make sure that we've got the right substance. And there's lots of different approaches out there for how to do that. We've got our own approach at Oxford Road that we've developed over the years, that we make sure that every piece of the message is in the right place. The way that I think of it is like a guitar tech handing a guitar up to the rock star so that they can play the solo that only they can play. We want to make sure we have that tool, the substance, the words that they're going to say correct, and then they can take it and they can stylize it. And once we get that core message that we're wanting to put together, we might also express it in different ways in audio. We might do that with produced spots, right? There's a number of different ways that we can communicate in the audio medium. And what's so powerful about it is that audio is processed in the exact same part of the brain where our emotions are processed. So when we hear, we feel. It's our fastest sense. We respond to audio faster than we respond to the visual, and we retain audio longer than the visual. So all of these things make it such a intrinsically powerful, intimate medium that when we hear something, we feel it, we remember it, and it inspires us to want to take action. So it's so powerful. And it's not only just when it comes to the host endorsements, even though that's what we're going to be talking about, but in all the ways that audio connects to us. We all know that. We all feel that in our hearts. So what I wanted to ask you guys first, before we talk about the endorsement piece, is no matter what you're doing in audio, from a produced spot to live reads, what is the one thing that all your ads need to have in common?
I mean, I think I'm happy to jump in there. I think for me, it's some type of substantiation or endorsement. And so I'm sure we'll get into it, but 9 times out of 10, they've used the product before. And I'm like, forget about everything else we said. As long as you say what you liked about it most personally, like that's what I aim for in live reads. In pre-recorded, obviously that can be substituted out with other forms of substantiation. But yeah, that's like number one. Like, what's the reference point? Why, in terms of feeling, like, why should I care? How did it make you feel when you tried it, type of thing?
I'd say this might sound overly simplistic, but most people are looking for direction. So tell them what you want them to do. So a strong call to action, I think, is the sort of one mandatory.
Clarity.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I would say for us, the two main things. One is I would want people to walk away knowing what AG1 is. We had some great examples up there, and a lot of people were driving home daily foundational nutrition supplement. It's something that you take every day, and it's there to support your foundational nutrition. That would be number one. And then number two is I would really want people to walk away having some understanding of the mission of our brand through the host's point of view. So that would be how this product has helped the host take ownership of their health. So it's kind of tying in that personal endorsement piece and aligning that with the mission and the purpose of the brand.
Excellent. Yeah, what I'm hearing is we want to make sure that we're clear, and the way that we talk about it a lot of times with folks that we're working with to help put their message out there is clarity before poetry, which is kind of what I was saying at the beginning there, right? Like, what's the substance? And then let's figure out the style component. So thank you, guys. So talking about working with these hosts, I mean, the magic of podcasts from the beginning and truly radio at the beginning, 100 years ago, is that it's free flowing. It's the freedom that they have to make that connection and talk about it however they feel like. But we're responsible for the messages that we're putting out there, and we have to have mechanisms of control in place. And there's PR, and there's compliance, and there's lawyers, and all these other things. So what advice do you have to your peers as far as how do you guys balance that freedom and control, specifically as we're talking about working with hosts looking for those endorsements?
I think the most powerful, I'm sure everyone sees the same thing, the most powerful ads are those that are truly authentic and come from the host's own voice and words. And you can even hear it in the tenor of their voice. It just becomes more natural, more engaged, certainly more compelling. And so getting out of people's way, not providing, we're probably guilty of this, but not providing like 800 pages of factoids and sound bites and everything, but really make it a very tight, crisp set of information to help people understand what you're trying to accomplish and then get out of their way. That doesn't help you with the legal piece. That's more like you have to build the internal trust battery to be able to let you have the right to do that, which doesn't happen out of the gates, probably, in most places. So I don't have an easy solution for that. I wish I did.
I don't know if anybody does, but yeah, Shane, what do you think?
No, I like the notion of a trust battery, and in my experience, like even just communicating that out to the broader team and stakeholders, like legal, et cetera, and explaining like, hey, this is why this medium works, this is why it's unique, and this is our perspective on it. People might do things that are we can't predict, and that might cause controversy or cause feedback. But here's our plan if it does, and here's why we work with the people that we work with. Here's how they engage with their audience. You might not understand them and their audience, but they do. And so we're going to trust them. And here's how we're going to react as partners, should controversy happen. And I think just having that communication, that understanding internally, like charges those batteries, and then everyone's ready, like when and if something happens, which it will in audio.
Has that ever happened to you, Shane?
Oh yeah.
Do tell.
Yeah, I mean, I'm speaking from being caught off guard or flat-footed, and we didn't have a plan in place. It was like, yeah, audio is great. We got all these hosts. Like, we're just like, we just want the ads to work. We will work with anybody that has an audience and has the right CPM. And internally, people were just like, oh wow, audio seems to be really working. And then we had a controversy, and then it just gets intense, and you have reporters reaching out, and Twitter, and people slacking their managers, and then everyone's trying to figure out what the latest is, and all of a sudden everything happens so fast. And without that kind of specific plan of like, hey, this is exactly how we said we would react, we already aligned that this is how we would approach this situation. If you don't have that in place up front, then it can be really hard not to react to the moment essentially, and like that emotion. So advanced planning and communication, it works.
Absolutely. And so now that if we can just park on this for a minute, so you got burned, then you've got what we need to put together a plan on how we will react. Have you found that opens you up to take more risks because you know what you will do, or the opposite?
I think it definitely opens you up to take more risk, because it's clear you're prepared for it, and you have alignment internally that is a risk worth taking, and so I think it ends up setting you up for success. Because the alternative is you don't communicate those expectations, those plans. Something happens, and then and then everyone's like, oh, like the whole thing's like broken, or everything kind of comes under scrutiny. So opens you up for more. I think.
Shut the channel down. Just stop. Turn it off.
Yeah, turn it off. Stop.
Yes, halt the presses. Exactly.
Absolutely.
What about you?
I think my biggest piece of advice would be very clear about your do's and don'ts. Do your due diligence, build in any protections. I know a lot of people are in favor of like ad pre-approvals. Personally, I think it really establishes an amazing sense of trust when you can kind of equip people with what they need to know and then let them do their thing. A lot of people have proactively sent us ads to approve, and we'll say, we're good. We trust you. You know your audience, you know your thing, and that really goes a long way. People are very surprised and impressed to receive that response. And then I think the other thing that I would say is you're signing up to have a little bit of risk there. And things will more often go really, really right than they will go really, really wrong. And that's why you're kind of buying into this.
I like the sound of that. Okay, so let's dig in some more. I know from our conversations prior to this that something that you at AG1 really focus on, Margaux, is the onboardings. And that's something that, like, with the conversation today of this race to efficiency of, how do we got hosts that aren't showing up on onboarding calls as much. It's something that has to be fought for, and it's so easy to let gravity pull you to the ground and it's just going to be an email. Can this just be an email? I mean, like, could this just be an email, right? No, there's a value to having that interaction, and you guys have fought really hard when it comes to onboardings. And so what has that been like? Like, what is your, I think you were telling me it's something like 98, 99% of the time you're getting on face-to-face, human-to-human when you're doing these?
Yeah, that's the goal. And in addition to it being a very kind of, we want people to be empowered with the information to talk about the product from a place of knowledge and a place of enthusiasm. It's many times the first and only opportunity we have to connect with our hosts face-to-face. If you do it right, hopefully it's not the first time, but you kind of have to go in with that approach or that perspective. We do aim for a really kind of high success or completion rate of onboarding calls. We find them to be totally invaluable. As Shane mentioned, people often have had plenty of time to try the product by then. And it's honestly a space that's ripe for creative brainstorming. Tell me about how the product has, impacted your lifestyle. What does your routine look like with AG1? Do you have any friends or family that love it? They have questions about the benefits that they've been experiencing, or people in their circle that have reached out about questions. And that's kind of a great opportunity to start crafting what the initial kind of draft of an ad might look like. And also, one of the reasons that this is so important to us is it's really healthy for the rest of the industry. When we can all start setting a precedent that this is an expectation for onboarding calls to be a requirement. They're 15 minutes. We've kind of gotten our spiel down to be an 8, so we can really be efficient and be sensitive to people's time and schedules. It's really only helpful and healthy for the rest of the industry. It's really important to us. I know it's really important to a lot of brands. And it's also kind of a great internal feedback loop. These are the things that we're hearing from partners. These are the things that we're hearing from hosts. We can tailor our creative based on these types of questions, or they really seem to want to know about this. Like, that's something that we need to get in touch with our messaging team about. So it serves so many different purposes that the 15 minutes, hundreds of shows, somebody from the team is carving out the time. It really is worth it.
And how is it? How did you get there? Like, how has the approach to onboarding evolved over time, or how does somebody get to that spot? Because that can sound overwhelming. It's like, how do we dedicate that time, and the kind of time and resources to do those onboarding calls? Like, what has that journey been like?
Yeah, I think while it's so important to educate people on the product and how to speak about it with authority, it also is very strategic in that it's a great opportunity to set expectations on what the campaign will look like. And you can then forevermore reference back and say, this is something we really emphasize in the onboarding call, or this was communicated in the onboarding call, or we discussed this. And it becomes really strategic because then everybody is very aligned on next steps, what the expectations are from the host or the producer or the team to really set the entire campaign up for success. And even more so, it really kind of communicates from the get-go that commitment to building a long-term partnership. We're doing this to invest in you, to invest in your content, invest in your audiences, so that we can test something, we can prove it out, we can all feel really good about it, and then we can build something for the long term.
Absolutely. And that's kind of inefficient, but it's valuable.
Exactly.
Do you ever get resistance to getting like talent onto those onboarding calls?
We do, and
how do you approach that?
We can kind of problem solve. A lot of people can be accommodating if the host is like an absolute, maybe it's an A-list celebrity. This is just not going to happen. Getting their copywriter or their producer in the room. We often also get those people product so that they can help support the host from their own individual experience and their own place of knowledge. And I think the last thing that I would say is, then that's also something we can reference back to. Maybe the campaign didn't go so great, and this is exactly the importance of an onboarding call. So sometimes if you can't, get up every one, it becomes an important learning to inform later tests or campaigns with that same publisher.
Yeah, and I mean, it is tough at scale, like hundreds and hundreds of shows. How do you do that? But I know, like, I've been talking with a few of you about this, and with the Legacy Box team, guys, like, we were talking that you've created a rank ordered list, basically, that shows of a certain size that you yourselves, as the founders, need to be on that call. So you can make that personal connection. Now, not every company's like that, where the founder is so intimately involved, but who is that person that is as radical of an owner as a founder is, right? That's what's been so beautiful over the years in working at Oxford with a lot of founders as spokespeople, is like, they absolutely own it. They care about the message. They want to make that intimate connection. So maybe, not every company's going to be able to do that, but who is the person that's the equivalent of that, right? Because then that other human that's on the other end of that call, you're going to be able to make those connections. So kudos to you guys for doing that. That was great talking with you guys about that.
Stu, even based off of that,
Yeah.
that incentivizes the host or the partner to give a really kick-ass ad when they know that the founder has carved out time in their day, where they know there's someone on the other end of the phone who's so invested and so excited about them. Like, that pays dividends.
Well, yeah, I mean, I like say hosts are people too. Turns out, right? Like, it feels good to connect. This feels good. And that's what this whole medium is about, right? This piece of it, this slice of it. And so, yeah, when you can do that, like, they want to do good. You saw that yesterday, for any of you guys that were there yesterday, with Whitney Cummings, like how earnest she is about, I want to connect, I want to get the feedback. I want to do that. It's like, okay, it's just that is so diametrically opposed to so much of what we push for with the efficiency of stuff, or how can we just optimize this and make it go as quickly as possible, and that's where I get, I get it. The reality piece comes in. We can't do this with everybody, but maybe there's a tranche of shows, maybe 10 of them, 20 of them even, right? Is it really that impossible for us to really dig in deep and make those connections? Okay, so Shane, let's talk about that Kelsey Brothers integration. That was magical. We saw the end result in the video there. The one brother spraying the other guy with the water pick. It's a cool result. Yeah. It was good for the business, but what was the road to get there like, Shane? Why don't you tell us the story behind getting to that end result?
Yeah, I mean, it's not always a smoothly paved road. And I think in that case, we were looking at opportunities to do something bigger. We're getting close to the Super Bowl when the opportunity came up, and we're like, this is great, but we don't want it to just be another ad read and at a premium because of proximity to the Super Bowl. And so we're like, we want to lean in. Let's listen to their podcasts. What's it like? And they're very competitive siblings, and we're like, okay, great. Let's lean into this like spirit of competition, Super Bowl, et cetera. But it was one of those examples where things went wrong. They had to travel both for the Super Bowl, and they were recording in an Airbnb, and we were trying to coordinate product to get to them so that they could actually use it before the ad read. And as you saw in the first one, if you notice, they like showed the colors, and they're like, oh, it's really cool. Like, can't wait to unpack them. And it's like, that's not an endorsement. That's like, Quip gifted me this thing. It's like kind of cool. Maybe I'll like it. And so, I mean, honestly, we were like, well, that's a failure. But we didn't stop there. We were like, okay, how do we salvage this? How do we continue to work with them? Because we did have multiple onboarding calls with the producer who assured us that, product would get there in time, et cetera. And so it came in really clutch in that moment, because we were able to say like, hey, you that was one of our non-negotiables, and this is how we expected this to go down. And we were able to kind of replicate it. The momentum, the story continued post Super Bowl. And they ended up trying the product and then demonstrating it on camera and having a lot of fun. But that came from a lot of place of us pushing for them to participate in a deeper way. So, and it was successful. It did really well.
Congrats. Yeah, those are really fun ads. The challenge is, we all know, like, not everyone can be like that. So how do you think of it as far as I want to go for these really inspired, awesome integrations, right, with the host endorsements where they're demonstrating the product, and then do you have workhorse creative over here? Do you have produce spots? Like, how do you, because you can't make it all that. Like, how do you approach that, or how do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think having a creative that works hard for you, that is reliable, and being able to leverage that as kind of a baseline. And then something that we've done is just frequently, alter ways in and ways out, and encourage the hosts to do something different each time, even if it's just the intro. And then on pre-recordeds as well, like having, okay, this ad is the one that people hear, and it's like the jingle, and they're like, oh, that's the Quip ad. And there's some value in continuing to surface that ad, but there's also some fatigue. So it's just making sure that you have a roster that you can rotate in and not make people too angry.
Yeah, that's a good goal. Yeah, we don't want to make people too angry.
Yeah, this ad again, not this ad again.
Yeah. I always feel like we're so much more sensitive to that than like us when we're in this room as the professionals that make the ads. Like, I'm tired of this ad. It's like, are they really tired of it out there? They're busy people. I don't know. And there's such a value to like recognizing the same thing over and over again. Like, for instance, a sound, sonic branding with Shopify. So let's talk about that. So, but before we talk about your sonic branding, what brands out there do you, Jess, feel like are doing sonic branding really well, that you're like, they're doing what I want to be doing?
Yeah, the ones that jump to my mind, and curious to hear anyone in the room, if you can shout them out, the ones that resonate with you, are ones like Mercedes-Benz, Apple, where there's noise moments in the use of the product that just trigger an immediate identification of that brand. When you open up your Apple computer, like, it's an Apple, and everyone around you knows. And so I think where you can have those marketing moments integrated into the full product experience and then pull that into your consumer-facing messaging, which is what we've attempted to do at Shopify, is where you have the strongest linkage, because there's that repeated frequency of engagement and authenticity to why you're leaning into this noise rather than just coming up with something in a marketing agency.
Was that cha-ching in that ad? Was that like a Spotify noise? Or?
Yeah.
Oh.
So for anyone that's a Shopify merchant in the room, if you have the Shopify app, anytime you get a sale, this is maybe annoying for some people, it makes that cha-ching. You got a sale, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. And so there's a lot of organic social content that has people playing the cha-ching and showing their excitement about their first sale or their 100th sale or their 1,000th, 10,000th, et cetera. And so that had already been long integrated into the product experience. And so then we sort of like pulled that into our consumer-facing messaging.
Yeah, that was such a fun journey with you guys of like looking at that and going, what already exists? Because sometimes I think when it comes to sonic branding and we're thinking about like, oh, do we need a crafted jingle or some kind of sound from the ground up, and be like, I mean, you can listen like the podcast 20,000 Hertz. They've got a fantastic episode talking about the Netflix, the ta-dum sound and everything that goes into that, right? You can go so deep that you never actually do anything, where you already had that existing sound. And then we're talking about, hey, let's integrate that in, because that already is such like a positive emotional response that people are having, right? People that are using the app, you hear that cha-ching, that is like victorious. Like, yes, this feels good. Let's integrate that into the ads. And even with you guys going that step further of, it was kind of astounding. We're talking about this inefficiency thing of taking that cha-ching sound and getting it to the hosts to actually have them use it, right?
Yeah, and I think that was talking about annoying people or not wanting to make them mad. It was an extra step that people didn't really want to move towards, particularly when we integrated into SiriusXM, our advertising there. It was like we had to go up a chain quite a ways in order to make that happen. And I think it was very much worth it, sort of looking at you, Kyle, because you were a big part of that. And even internally, like the sound had existed, the sort of sound file had existed embedded within our app for so long. We needed to figure out, like, where's the trademark for this thing? Like, who built this? Like, where is the sound file? Like, all of that required a lot of hunting down internally to make it happen.
Yeah, it was a lot of effort, but it's been worth it. And then how is it expanding past audio even? We were talking some about that, like purely just audio. How are you seeing that cha-ching? Because you made that decision, hey, we're going to do it here, but now you were telling me you're expanding out into other channels.
Yeah, we have a TV marketing program where we use it consistently in all of our TV advertising. If you can believe this, we even use it in our direct mail program. We write out cha-ching. It's all over our social advertising content. It's really become very ubiquitous. And this had already started from some organic traction, as I said, that people were sort of associating this already with Shopify, but now we've just extended that across multiple channels. And I think one of the benefits has been it's given us more freedom within the creative and the messaging to have more diversity because we have this single source of consistency that spans across everything. So then we don't need to be quite as betwixt about making sure that our tagline or exactly our messaging points are totally consistent because we already have this point of consistency that is hearkening back to our brand across all these many surfaces.
Yeah, I think that's so. It's just so powerful. I think back to like what you guys have done with the cha-ching and having the hosts do it. You've had some resistance from them, integrating it, which is it's like astounding, but it's awesome. But anyway, so they're integrating it. People are embracing it. It's like back in the history of this medium, the NBC chimes. Each individual radio host had their own set of chimes that they would play the bum bum bum. You've done the same thing with that cha-ching, which is just cool. I like that historical continuity with it. So kudos to you. I think that
thankfully we didn't have to mail everyone some chimes that they can.
I think that's next.
Could be.
It'd be the best. Yeah. And I think every brand probably has some sound or something that you could integrate. Like I know Shane, with the sound of the toothbrush or whatever, or even how quiet the toothbrush is, the lack of noise, right? And using that.
As long as it's not the sound of the dentist drill, they're like,
yeah, then we're all out. Then we all begin to feel that pain deeply, immediately.
But no, that's been really successful in audio. Once again, like product demonstration usage and people turning the brush on and then like putting it up against the mic and letting it vibrate. And we haven't gone so far as to developing sonic branding, but I think it's clear the benefits of investing in something like that for a brand.
And then what about with you, Margaux, with AG1, when it comes to the sounds of AG1, what has that exploration been like for you guys?
Yeah, I'm feeling inspired. My wheels are turning. We got the shake, we got the scoop. We have some things to work with there.
You can do the pouring of the stuff,
Yeah.
the sound of the powder.
Yep.
A whole ASMR campaign.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
gonna come out of this.
Yeah.
For AG1. It's like half the audience is like, yes. The other half is like, no, I hate that stuff. I can't stand it. Well, let's open it up to questions here in just a second, guys. I just want to say that like we had talked about this race to efficiency, that what's so beautiful about audio to me is that it is inefficient intimacy. And it's like all of us being here is a testament to the same thing. That it's worth us coming and being together and making a connection that only we can make person to person, and tremendous value comes out of those relationships. And the hosts are people too. It's the same thing with them. That's the only way we get to the gold with them, is investing in that relationship. So that's the last bit on that. Now, as far as questions go from the audience, do you guys got questions for our fine panelists here?
How often do you guys change the creative for host reads, and how granular do you get from show like The Heights with sports and football focus to, say, Two Bears, One Cave, comedy focus, and just kind of either getting really creative with the hosts or just the genre, time of year, seasons, etc.?
We did a little bit of testing on that, where we used to have a generic set of talking points that we used across all of our hosts, and then we went to sort of a by genre breakdown where we had sort of sports specific, et cetera, and then also layered in sort of like a seasonal component. And those two things drove about a 2x increase in response. So definitely, like, I sort of hate to say it in some ways, like the DR playbook of personalization. What do you know? It works in audio as well as it works everywhere else. And then frequency, I'd be very curious to learn from you guys if you have any secret sauce on this. We do it quarterly. I don't know if that's too much, too little, don't know.
Yeah, we do it about every other month, and similar approach of like consistent talking points, and then we kind of mesh it together. We provide like 3 or 4 different intros or ways in that we kind of anticipate that, like, oh yeah, like a sports show is probably going to pick this one, and a comedy show is probably going to pick something else. But sometimes we're surprised. And that seemed to work well for us, at least in terms of live reads.
I think that we have yet to kind of crack the code on the exact frequency of creative refreshes that would, continue to propel efficiency and effectiveness. Aligned with the other panelists here on making sure that the personal endorsement is at the forefront. I think that another way that we kind of set our hosts up is giving them like a framework to tell a story. We want everything to feel really natural. I think sometimes working with like brand copywriters or other people that produce messaging or copy within an organization, a lot of the times the feedback that I'm giving is like, this doesn't sound like something someone would say. It sounds like something that would be in web copy or on a billboard. So I think kind of continuing to flex that muscle of, does this sound like something that someone would say in a conversation? Does this feel natural in like a verbal sense? And just giving people a lot to work with, especially at scale. Hyper frequent creative refreshes can be a bit of a challenge. So when you give a lot of people to work with something from the beginning, they can sort of focus on one pillar 1 week, and next month they can focus on, something else that you set them up with.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Was there another question over there?
I could go in two directions. The first was kind of for Shane about, and I think you had a little bit, Margaux, on it too, but about ad wear out, how you're measuring when you hit ad wear out would be number one. And number two is when you're choosing directionally, like about personalization or like trying to personalize creative for a show, are you choosing your shows, I guess, based on your audience, who you think your target audience is, or are you choosing it based on your product? So like for Athletic Greens, would it be health and wellness content, or is it because your target audience consumes a lot of news?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think health, wellness, nutrition, optimize your life are definitely a focus for us. But I think something that's really important to know, especially for people who are new in the space, or people who are passionate about health and wellness, are not only listening to health and wellness content. There was a kind of food consumables brand who I was speaking to recently, and they said they'd really targeted cooking podcasts, and people who eat snacks don't only listen to cooking podcasts. So I think really kind of a diversity of genres or content verticals is important, and especially with personal endorsement being such a focus, finding a host that really cares about the product, because that's really the one who's going to deliver the best message.
Yeah, and on ad wear out, I think it ends up being often different by medium and by show. And so I think you have to end up keeping a pulse just on, and maintaining a certain sense of sanity of prioritization. And oftentimes with a larger show, you'll just start to see, maybe if we like move frequency out, like we can keep our CACs like consistent. Oh wait, no, we move frequency out and like we're still seeing an increase in CAC. Let's go in, let's get on another call with them and let's talk about this, and let's work on a bigger integration. I think of, we had worked with H3H3 and Ethan Klein for years and years. And he had started the Frenemies podcast, and we had done a handful of integrations, and performance was more or less where it needed to be. But I was sat there being like, his audience has to have heard Quip ads, 10 times each, like it's such a huge frequency. I was like, we got to do something different. So I don't want to just be like, hey, it's not working anymore. Like I want to be like, hey, it's slowing down. How can we speed it up? And so that was actually the first time we piloted like a competition type of approach, and like that one episode, even though it's the same audience, probably the 20th time we ran, we saw like a 6x response on that episode than we had seen from prior drops, and it just breathed fresh life into the show, into the property. And then with radio, I feel like it's just qualitative. You see someone on Twitter and you're like, oh yeah, whatever. Someone's in some bucket that's like getting fed the same ad over and over. You see 5 people on Twitter, you're like, okay, we should pull back on our day parts or like revisit our day parts.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Was there any other questions? If not, I think we will go ahead and wrap up this because I think we might be over a little. Thank you, guys. Give our panelists a big hand.